money in the book, moving from applause to appraisal, the high stakes writing model that scales. Come on in the room. Let's talk about it. All right, this is Aaron, the publisher, with another exciting episode of the Book Banker podcast. We're picking up where we left off last week, where we introduced the 8 elevations of how we actually build our books, developing them, using our workspace as intellectual property, and then building our books, not writing them, we're building them, right? We're building assets in our inventory. And so today we're going to look at how we price those assets. So let's come on in the room today and let's take it up an even higher level. Let's elevate our thinking. Prepare to put on your thinking caps, not those old thinking caps from elementary school when you sat at that desk and the teacher said, "Hey class, put on your thinking caps." We're unearthing ourselves today. We are moving away from what we see with our eyes, and we're going to see through our eyes, because there is transformation living on the inside of us. We are transformative, intelligent, brilliant, creative geniuses, and it is time for the market to know our name. Let's walk through it together. All right, so here's where we left off. You built the asset. Now it's time to appraise it. The 8 elevations that I introduced you to last week showed you how to structure word capital into an asset, how to build it, and how to build it right. But this episode is going to teach us how that asset is priced, valued, evaluated, and funded once that asset exists in the marketplace. All right, so structurally, we looked at the 8 elevations, taking our great idea into a structured environment. We moved from being just content creators to taking the leap of putting context around our content. And so the 8 elevations broke down for us how we structure one idea 8 different ways. You can use one or more of them, and how you can move your work from the book into the next level, which is your proposals, your systems, your services, your contracts, your relationships that last. We're not just writing a $25 book. We're looking to cement ourselves in the industry where we own the space, we own the lane. And so it is important for us to identify who we are, the problem that we solve, and the solution we bring to the end user experience. And so that's why we need to make sure that what we're doing is not just writing a book. Many people write a book. The industry is saturated with books and authors. You can go on Amazon, you can go on Books A Million, Borders, and you'll find books everywhere. You walk into a bookstore and they're fighting for shelf space. We started this teaching series talking about how actually less than 1% of authors see their books on a shelf. So why are we fighting for opportunities to be on a shelf that was never designed for us to land? Why is it that we're in an oversaturated market, forcing ourselves into an environment, hoping that we get reviews, hoping that we get pushed forward, become bestsellers, and we're not focused on ownership? Ownership is where all the money is. Ownership is in your book. It isn't owning your intellectual property. It is owning it as an asset. It is moving away from the idea that you deserve a royalty. No longer are we receiving pennies for our thoughts. Those days are canceled. Those agreements are canceled. Void and null. Outdone, canceled. We have canceled that culture. We are buying into a new concept, a new idea, the creative capital class, reclassifying ourselves as the authority. And this is how we do it. We start by moving away from traditional writing models, and we're structuring our books as things that we build as assets in our portfolio. We're building master publishing catalogs. And if last week the 8 elevations brought your ideas to the surface, today we're going to move beyond the surface, and last week is going to be our floor and not our ceiling. Let's elevate and take it higher. We're going to talk about how to actually structure appraisal writing. But before we get into the details of that, let's look at the 3 types of writing stages. So the first stage is in the writing tables, or the 3 writing tables, is the craft stage. This is where you come to what I call the writing table. At the writing table, it's like the development room. It's the invisible place. Growing up, we used to have cameras, not the type you have now with your cell phone where you snap it, you get the picture, you get the result instantly. Back in the day, when I was coming up, we'd have to take pictures, hope that they snapped right. We couldn't fix them. We couldn't edit them. We kept them, and we couldn't even develop them until all of the ribbon was run out, right? So if this picture took, let's say, 30 images, we'd have to take 30 images before the camera roll would expire, and then take it out of the camera, take it to a local drugstore like a CVS, or I think it was People's Drug back then before CVS purchased it, and then you'd have to sign for it, put your name, address, phone number, or whatever the information was, and then give it to the clerk, who take it into a film room where it was being developed. And so in the development room, it was dark. They put it in some type of solution. They rolled out the ribbon, and so you couldn't turn on the light because it would expose. If the light exposed it, it would ruin the camera and all kinds of things. The shots would be bad, and you wouldn't know for a week or two if the picture you took came out right. That is what I'd like to call the writing table. This is the stage of your writing where you're just trying to figure it out. You're trying to develop it, and you talk too much. You have to stop talking about what you're doing. I tell authors all the time, slow to speak, quick to listen. You do not have to tell everyone you're writing a book. You do not have to tell everyone you're working on a project. That is none of anyone's business but your own. It is time for you to take the work that you have into the dark place, right? Where it's being developed, where it's being matured. Because the last thing you want is for somebody to come into your room, turn on the light while you're trying to build and develop something, and say, oh, why are you picking that color? Or why don't you do pink? Or why is it that tall? Or you should get a small one. Listen, when my wife and I were building our home, we told no one. You know why? Because we didn't want their opinion. If we want your opinion, we give it to you. And the way we gave it to you is by waiting until the entire process was complete. You didn't know what street we were building on. You didn't know that we were building at all. You didn't have a realtor to refer to us. You didn't have a suggestion to put in the suggestion box because we were not interested. It wasn't until we received the keys, closed on the home, that we sent notification to the family, hey, we just closed. Come see us and let's celebrate together. They didn't get an opportunity to say, well, why didn't you pick this lot and not that one? Or why'd you pick this chandelier and not this one? Or what about this wall? Could you have bumped this out a little? They didn't get that chance. We didn't give it to them. You're now standing in the promise. You're standing in the dream. The dream is now fulfilled while you are present and while you are hearing me, and there's nothing you can do about it. We spend too much time inviting people into our creative spaces for them to tell us how to move, tell us what to do, and then we wonder why we experience writer's block. We wonder why we get stuck in the creative spaces. We wonder why things aren't moving for us. Every time you start, it is not an opportunity for you to tell someone what you're working on. I know for whatever reason it feels good to get that round of applause, to get that attention, to get that visibility, to say, oh, Aaron's working on that. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Listen, we don't need attaboys. We don't need rounds of applause. We need finished work. And so in that first phase of development, this is the time for you to sort through. Get a feel for what's going on around you. Are you writing this to the right audience? Is this work landing? How is it work? How do you think it's going to work? How do you think it's going to land? And so before it means anything to anyone else, it must first happen here, private, unfinished, and unproven. This is where you make all the mistakes. This is where you sort out and figure out the language of the lane that you're going to go into, right? This is where your raw intelligence becomes language for the first time. This is when you test it first with yourself. Get to know yourself before you introduce yourself to someone else. Every asset starts as a draft at a table that no one else is invited to. Table 2. Now here is the table read. This is the stage I like to call the table read. Here's the opportunity where you're going to test out some of the things you've been working on in the dark and see how they land, right? So now it's spoken out loud for the first time. You're testing it in front of others. Small increments, right? So think of it like phases. You're rolling them out in phases, or a soft launch. It's some material that you're working on. Maybe you're a comedian, you're working on a punchline. Perhaps you're an actor and you want to see how something lands when you present it. You don't have to tell anybody that you're auditioning for a major movie. You just have to move in spaces and ask, what do you think about my hair? When I stand like this, what do you think? You may be trying to get a feel for how you are coming off, how your words are landing, or how you're presenting yourself. You don't have to reveal the whole thing. No one needs to know you're going to Hollywood next week. No one needs to know you've got a pending deal with Netflix. No one needs to know that you have a deal with a multi-book deal with a publisher. All you have to do is test it out to see how it's landing. This is what I call the table read phase, right? And so this is where you get the laughs, the nods, the claps. It's real, it's necessary, and it tells you how your words are landing. You're just testing them out. You're not telling anyone that you're preparing this dish for Thanksgiving feast that you've been hired to cater for 5,000 people. You're just saying, hey, I just made a new cake, want to ask you what you think about it. They don't even know that they're participating in a taste testing, right? And so this is how you have to do your work. When you're doing your work, you have inventory. You're adding inventory by opinions. You're using the opinions in your inventory, but they don't control the outcomes because they don't know where you're going with it. And this is the stage of the table read that the applause is the reaction, but that is not the valuation. The applause that you receive at this stage is just you filling things out, and the reaction is the end, or it ends when the room empties. As soon as the room empties, as soon as the phone hangs up, as soon as the text message is sent, as soon as the thumbs up and the heart or the emoji, the like, the love, the comment, at the end, that's the end of the exchange. If you think that getting the like, getting the heart, getting the share is the beginning of something great, it is the end if you don't do it properly. And that's why this third stage of the table read, or the writing stage, is the table of contents. Now, here is where your book actually begins. You've already done the writing table. You've done the table read. It is now time to build your table of content. And if you've done this the wrong way and in the wrong order, your table of content is going to be all over the place. So remember, we talked about how we're not waiting to be invited to tables and seats and have chairs as seated with people in elevator pitches. We are the elevators. We are the ones who are raising the level of thinking to those who are under the sound of our voice. We are the rooms that we're waiting to get into because we understand that our gifts make room for us. And so they expand things around us, create the environment for our talent to flourish and for it to close the deals. And so at this third level of understanding, here's the table of contents. This is your pivot. This is your big move. This is when the work gets structured. It gets indexed, it is made legible, and it becomes the asset. This is something that can be referenced, licensed, certified, and owned. It also is something that can be invested into. It's like your business plan. It's like your strategy. It's your business plan, strategy, portfolio, catalog of your intelligence. What is it that your work is about to tell me? What is it about this that's going to show me who you are? Why should I invest in you? This is not an outline. This is not a preliminary plan. This is your table of content. You are the content creator. And now we're putting context around your content. And now we're moving your content into a capital space where you're looking now to land capital investments. You're looking for people to buy into what you're selling. You're looking to ensure that the transaction doesn't end with the book sale, that the transaction only begins. So this is why you have to write your work in such a way that you are sewing into the fabric of the pages. You're not just writing work, because you understand more than anyone around you that your words are not just for communication, they are for creativity. And this is the moment your writing gets to the table of contents, and it stops performing for applause and starts being appraised. You're now positioning your work. Let's move into the core of your term, the appraisal writing process. And I like to break it down in 4 steps or 4 stages. So writing elevated the way an asset is elevated. So we're writing evaluated the way an asset is evaluated. And so not just like when I think of an asset, I'm talking about a house, for example, right? And so you're now moving the needle into this intellectual property space where it's not limited to real property like land or dirt. Your intellectual property is innumerous, right? It's immeasurable. You cannot take the depth of it or the width of it or the breadth of it or the height of it. It is so expansive that it does not matter what you put in it. It is designed to grow it. And so whether it's something small like a small ebook, or it's a master publishing catalog full of multiple offers, it has the capacity to hold it, and so much more. So let's look at the 4 stages before we go to the next step in the high stakes writing model structure. The first part of our structure is actually the structure of it. Number two is the scarcity. Number three is the transferability. And number four is yield. So when we look at structure, structure is can someone, or the question you're asking yourself, can someone else follow it, build on it, replicate the results? That is how you know that your idea is now in a structure. That is how you know that your content is now has context. The second place is the scarcity. So does it say something only this author at this vantage point could say? What you're saying is unique to you. You are uniquely positioned in the industry, in the market, that you have created your own lane, and only your voice is the thing that responds to. So in scripture, it talks about how the sheep know the voice of the shepherd, and a stranger's voice they will not follow. Because the system of voice activated power is in the fact that when you are the creator, as in this example, God is the creator of the universe, that the only voice that the sheep who are blind, who are deaf and dumb, however you want to describe them, they only follow the voice of the shepherd. Remember, because sheep can't see it. Sheep don't know what's around them. Sheep don't know when there's a threat, when there's an enemy. But they do know when there's a sheep dressed in wolf clothing, that they're protected when the voice of that wolf betrays them, because they only follow the voice of the shepherd. And so when you are following the shepherd's voice, that is you creating your own lane. You are the shepherd, you are the steward, and the thing that you design, the thing that you create will only follow your voice. The sun is suspended in the sky, in the universe, based on a word. Stay, sit, stand. The sun does not move. You may look at the sun rise, you may look at the sun set, but the sun actually doesn't move. Who's moving? You are. You're revolving around the sun. The sun is not revolving around you. So when you're creating your system, when you're creating your words, when you're creating your universe, when you're creating the thing that's uniquely fashioned to you, they are sustained by your words and will only respond to your words. And everything else is revolving around you. If when I was little, people used to say, you think you all that, you think you this, you think you that, you think the world revolves around you. I never disagreed with them. And you know why? I'm not being arrogant. This not a flex. It's me knowing who I am. I already knew when I was born that I belong here. Before the foundation of the world, I belonged here. There was a place for me. Humans are the only things that God created that doesn't know what they're here to do, why they're here, how long they should be here, and what they should be doing. Those days are over. We are now walking into the best season of our lives. We know who we are. We know what our voice is. We know our authority, and we are walking in it unapologetically. And I'm taking you by the hand and bringing you to the diary of the mind of the creator. The creator of the universe, the creator of the original content creator, the original word speaker, the original one who framed the worlds with the words we speak, and they shall be established. That is the word of the creator. And as a creative capital investor, as you are, you're now walking into this best season of your life, away from just following the trends of other creators and actually adopting and aligning yourself with the one creator. That is the one voice, your fingerprint, your DNA. It belongs to you. And so that's how you create the scarcity, that people will look around and not be able to find the thing that they found in you. Number three is transferability. Can it move? When I say can it move, my question I'm asking is can it go from the place it is presently, like a book? Can it go into a course? Can it go into a program? Can it go into a system? Can it go into a service? Can it go into a nonprofit? Can it go into a movie script? Can it go into a streaming platform? Can it go into a music offering? Can it become a soundtrack? Right? And so don't just write to just have something at the transaction in there. What more is there? And that's why you have to structure it strategically. And the last one is the yield. Does it produce an outcome for the reader? The end user experience. It's not just enough for you to get it off your chest. It's not just enough for you to share your story so you can express yourself so people can know what you went through. People do not care what you went through. People don't care as much as you think they care. They care about themselves in your story, not you in your story. So if you don't tell your story in a way that lands with someone else, that in the way that they can see themselves, naturally they're not going to react. Naturally they're not going to respond. They're going to give you a round of applause, and that's when the transaction is going to end. But the continuation of that transaction is when they see themselves as a vested interest in what you're putting out, then your offering becomes scalable, not just a feeling. The feeling ends, feelings change, but the weight and the gravity of conversion does not. Let's move forward. The value escalation. Here's where things move. Here's where you take a person from an image to activating their imagination and believing that they can have what you said they can have. Because when you can see what other people cannot see, you literally can have what they cannot have, including what's inside of them. But that's another story, another episode for another time. Let's stay in the room. Let's stay in the train of thought. Aaron, focus. We don't want to get too beside ourselves. We're doing good. So here's what I like to say, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's a theme. That's a thing that we've heard before, right? But what if 1,000 words could be worth millions? Remember I told you about when I was young and my dad asked me, he said, son, a penny for your thoughts. And the reason he asked me that was because I looked like I was such in deep thought that whatever I was thinking must have been worth $1 million to him. And then I was wondering, well, if it's worth $1 million, then why you want to give me a penny? And so people have been giving us pennies for our thoughts. Some of us have been talking so much that we just been literally giving our thoughts away for attention. We have exchanged our thoughts. We have exchanged our experiences because we have somehow fallen in love with the sound of our own voice. We'd rather get the attention and the applause of people. And that is the exchange. That's the end of it. And as a result, we got the attention, we got the applause, we got their affection, and we got their buy-in. And now we've got their relationship with them. I don't know, because some people think that relationships are currency. So the more I talk, the more I have relationship with, the more. But then we wonder why we broke. We wonder why things aren't moving for us. We wonder why we're built into this economy, into this economic system that has trained us to trade time for money. This is the cycle that we've opened ourselves up to and have bought into, this idea that we are not worth more than our paychecks. We are not worth more than our credit scores. We are not worth more than our report cards. You know how long it took me to get on the honor roll when I was in school? I couldn't read till I was 15 years old. So you can imagine I never saw the honor roll. But I did not make it into the honor roll until I was in the 11th grade. 11th grade for the first time. And it wasn't because I had a learning disability. It was because I had an ability to learn differently. You have to understand who you are, why you're here, and what problem you're here to solve. And once you understand that, you're going to begin to build principles in those problem spaces, and that's where your wealth is going to come from, right? And so the first thing is the picture, which is worth 1,000 words. People look at pictures and they draw conclusions. I don't care what you say. People judge a book by its cover. People will say, well, God doesn't look at he looks at the heart. He doesn't look at the outward appearance of man, and he doesn't. But people do. People looking at you, they looking at what you look like. They looking at what's on your face. They're looking at the booger hanging out of your nose. They're looking at your hair strand that's over to the left when you're on the newscast and you're the media company. They're like, why she got that color on? They don't wear certain colors on TV. Did you notice that? Did you notice that there's certain patterns and certain colors that anchor people aren't allowed to wear? There's a certain way that they must present themselves. Yes, all day long you can say God doesn't look on the outward appearance and I'm here to bless God and to serve God. And that's wonderful. But God is not in the marketplace buying your books. God is not in the marketplace buying your courses. You need to put on some clothes and look like something. You need to wash your face and look like something. You need to put a smile on your face when you're speaking. Right? And so you have to understand that image, likeness, and personality are important. This is the new currency. This is where we are. No longer is it just enough and good enough to have a great credit score. They have great collateral. They have great capacity. We are in a new era. We are in the transformative age where people are looking for trust. People are looking, and it is important to be favorable to look upon. So do your hair, put on some clothes, and walk out the door with some pride. Sit up in your chair, walk with like you belong there, and walk into the rooms like you own them. I didn't say go in there boasting. I didn't say announcing yourself. I said arrive. I said show up and let people discover you. I said show up and let people say, who is that? There's something different about him. There's something different about her. There's something about them I want to get to know. Let people discover you. You are a revelation. People are true to the images that are in front of them. I know a friend of ours who won't eat something because it doesn't look right. She said, I don't eat ugly food. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it looks like. I've seen some ugly food, and I have enjoyed, but I get it because sometimes people eat with their eyes. Just like guess what else they do? They buy with their eyes. People are visual, and that's why a picture is worth 1,000 words. And when you get their visibility and when you get their attention, the next thing you want is their buy-in, because 1,000 words becomes millions of dollars in the right hands. This is how policies are developed. Policies don't come from people who write well and have great ideas. Policies are often shaped from people who have money, who hire lobbyists to carry their cause into a room where the writing table is happening and ideas are being formed and policies are being shaped. Most of what you see in legislation came from a lobbyist, a hired person who was paid thousands of dollars and sometimes six figures to develop a relationship that landed at a table where they could influence, because the writing has to be presented in such a way that it lands on the end user. You can't just write policy and then submit it before the congressman and have them say, okay, sure, I'll approve that. No, it has to be written in such a way, not as a sale, but as a value. What is the value in this offer? Why is it that I must buy into what you're selling? In order for this to become a law, in order for this to become a structure, if you go to the bank and say, I have a great business idea, but if you don't say it, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You saying one thing, the way that the next person comes behind you and say the same thing differently gets them the loan and gets you walking out the door trying to figure out what's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You have the knowledge, you have the expertise, but you just didn't have the tool. And that's why for you, this meeting is strategic and prophetic. You are in the right place at the right time to receive everything you need, because our paths cross, because now I'm going to give you the tools to move you from not enough to more than enough. Here is the mechanism in order to do that. Storytelling as equity. Storytelling is not just for rounds of applause. It is not for attention. It is not for likes. It is not for shares. It is for equity. It is to be drawn upon. You do not have to tell every single part of your story and every single thing that happened at once. There are some things that you need to build into your work, into your book, into your proposal, so that when you stand before the crowd who bought your book, when you sit in front of the table of the people who reviewed your resume or your proposal, now you have equity. You can draw from it. Now you can bring it alive. You do not have to write it all. And so you write just enough to give a visual understanding so that the activation of the imagination is activated. So the person's imagination is activated enough to move them forward to the next step, to doing business with you, to entering relationship with you. And so here's the difference between the storytelling and laying your stories in your work properly. The story built for applause asks the reader to feel something and to move on. But a story that is built with equity asks the reader to take stake in what is happening next. You want the person to have stake and ownership in what happens next. And here's the difference between the two. The applause is where the reader feels something and moves on. That's a consumer. They consume it one time, but there's no ownership. But when you write with equity, when you understand the art of developing your creative capital, your content as creative capital, your words become creativity, not just communication where the transaction ended when the person ended the chapter. Now you're moving the reader forward. So now the reader gets a stake in your outcome. They feel like they own a part of your process. It's a shared experience. And that's why it has to matter to you that the end user comes before you. Yes, it happened to you, but did it happen to you or did it happen for you? Right? So if you think whatever happened in your life happened to you, that's the end of it. But when you know it happened for you, you're looking for ways to monetize it. You're looking for ways to multiply it. You're looking for ways to build on the momentum from the pain and cause the pain to pay you. Positioning yourself to cause the pain to pay you is not some type of far-reaching thing. You literally can do it. I can show you how to do it. And this is how. The real estate parallel. Understanding the real estate parallel. There's an appraiser in the lens. You have to see through your eyes, not just with your eyes. So on the outside, I can look at a house and I can say, this house is valued at $500,000. The house next to it, I can look at it and say, well, this house looks like it could be valued at $700,000. What is the difference? I have to actually go in the house. I have to look in the house, and how that house is structured, taken care of, maintained will determine its worth and its value. If you have a home that's badly managed and you have a home that's very clean, the clean house may be worth more than a damaged house, because what is it going to cost to repair it? What is it going to cost? What is the life cycle of the things that this house is built of versus the life cycle of what this house is built of? Two totally different things. And so when we look at real estate, this is the appraisers determining the market value for a property. So it's the location, it's the condition, it is the comparable sales in that neighborhood or the relationship in the community. It's called a comp. And so you're looking at the comps when you're considering the cost and the value of a market rate for a home and what it can be used for next. So what happens next in this home? That is also determined. But when you look at intellectual property as an asset, the appraiser determines its bridge line potential, right? So this is what it is asking, what it can become next. Can it be a workbook, a course curriculum, an institution, perhaps, a program, a service, or a system? Your book adds weight and credibility to you before you even open your mouth. Your book is worth more before you sell one copy than it was when you sold 300 copies or 1,000 copies. Before you walked in the room, instantly, your work adds credibility because people see it and they judge it, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. You want to control the narrative and you want to control the words. That's why you don't just want to write a book, you want to build one, because you want to control how people see you, how they perceive you, and how they perceive you is going to determine how they pay you and how they show up for you. And so there's something called increased perceived value. It's the perception of the value. It does not literally mean that it's worth X amount of dollars. It is what it's worth to the end user. It is why when you price your work, you have to price it respectfully, because you want to give it such a price that when the person picks it up and reads it, they feel like they insulted you by paying you less than what it was worth. Run this on your manuscript. I want you to do this. I want you to try this in your manuscript. This is something that I employed a few years ago. I started to move away from traditional writing, editing, interior design, layout, moving to that. I started to introduce an auditing process. I laid out 12 steps in my book and what those books have to include from every single page. Every word must be intentional. Every sentence strategically placed. Every chapter has a word count limit. There is a weight to every sentence and word and that paragraph that it lands in. I don't just write, I write to birth. When you're writing a skilled appraisal, equity-driven document, you have to make sure that the weight of it is greater than the words. It's not about writing big words. It is not. I think I get overstimulated when I see a document that's just full. The pages are full. I need white space. I need the page to breathe. I need something called bars in it, notes in it, short notes, half notes, whole notes, so that it can land. I have a structure that I create and I measure my work against to make sure that my work has weight and credibility, but it also has breadth for the reader. I don't want to overwhelm the reader and make it overstimulating. So I want you to introduce this auditing process to your work. And this is how you can start. And we can build on this by working together. I want to invite you to join me at my Book Banker Academy. I promise you it will be the best thing you've ever done. To become a member and open up your Book Banker account is going to be the best thing you've ever done in your writing career. I want to walk you through this process of how to start your appraisal, internal appraisal and auditing process. You're going to ask yourself 4 things with your manuscript. Number 1, does this scale beyond me? Can it work without my presence in the room? Is this something people need me to stand there and explain and understand? I just wrote a book, a novel, and I had my wife read the novel. Well, I didn't have her read the novel. She wanted to. And so my wife is reading the novel and she's taking a long time to get to it. I'm trying to get her to, she's excited as she's reading it. She's like, oh my God, today I read chapter XYZ and whoo, I was thinking and we're all excited. And I'm like I'm like, I can't wait till she get to the end. And she's reading it and she's reading it. And every time she gives me a review on where she is and how she's excited about how the story is unfolding and how she can tell where the characters are going. Oop, there was a change. I thought it was going to go one way. So I'm all intrigued by this. She gives me no critique. There are no, usually for my work, there were a lot of spelling errors. There were a lot of time, but this is the first time she's reading it and there are no errors. Why? Because I introduced an auditing system. So I'm testing it out on her and seeing how it lands with her first before I introduce it to the public. So my wife is reading the book, and fast forward, she gets to the end. The other day, she sits and tells me, she says, yeah, I finished the book, but I noticed there wasn't any excitement. And I was like, okay. She said, oh yeah, we can talk about it. I've been taking my notes and I'm gonna talk to you about it. So I said, okay. So long story short, I bring it back up because she's not bringing it up. And I said, hey, so what's going on with the book? You said, oh, so she paused the TV and she said, let me look at my notes. And she's giving me her takeaways on the book. And I'm thinking, we went from being excited to now she's giving me these mechanical responses. And she's like, yeah, and this person did that. And I'm like, well, I know that. I wrote it. What did it mean to you? What did you feel about it? What is your takeaway? And she's like, well, actually, I was a little confused. I actually had to read this part 3 times. I wasn't sure what happened here. It looks like this person did that. I said, no, if you thought this person did that, you weren't really paying attention. But it wasn't her not paying attention. It was my error in the structure and how I wrote it. How did I get all the way to the end of the book? And then the person say, she couldn't put it down until she got to the end and was like so confused, like, what did I just read? I thought it was over. And then it felt like it started again with this, that, and the other. And while my intention landed the way it was supposed to land on the paper, the end user was confused. The end user did not walk away with the same feeling I thought they would walk away with. And so I said, well, I have to write that in differently. I have to rewrite it. And she looked at me like, what? No. And I said, why are you looking at me like that? That's why I asked you to read it, right? I asked you to read it. So I wanted to understand if the trick, the twist, the turn that I put in it was going to land with you. It doesn't profit if it didn't land with you. Me saying, oh, I'm such a great writer. Look at the twist and the plot that I did. Look at how I move these words around. Look at, oh, this is Pulitzer Prize winning. This is award winning. I'm going to get a quill for this. This is going to get me a Grammy. This is going to get, if the person on the other end of it did not walk away with that same experience, you did not win. And so you have to make sure that not only do you not have to be in the room to explain things, that you write it in such a way that the end user experience walks away better than the way they came into it. So this is why auditing is better than editing. It is something that you have to do in order to move the reader to the next stage. Because if at the end you said something great, you had a great revelation, you were like, oh my God, clock it. Wow, hashtag. Oh, this will trend. Yes, it's trending. Yes, it's a hashtag. Yes, it's on an explore page. But that's the end of the exchange if the person on the other end of it wasn't bought into and invested and move the needle with them. Number 2, can someone else license, teach, or operate what I've written? Is it written in such a way that it can be transferred? Is it written in such a way that when you get a Microsoft a subscription to Excel or Word or PowerPoint, do they do that in a way that gets them to understand it and not you? Or do they write it in such a way and create it and code it in such a way that makes the end user experience flawless, or at least to the extent possible? When you're in an AI application and they're asking you, how am I doing? How is this response? You know why they're asking you that? Because they care more about how you're experiencing it than how genius they are. Like, your creative genius can't be so great that it stops with you. Your creative genius is only true when someone else identifies it. So for you to be a transformative, intelligent, brilliant, creative genius, that is only true if the end user experience that shows up in them. They discover that. They arrive at that. Not because you told them, not because you forced it, not because you said, listen to my work. Look at what I've done. I've done great work. Hire me. No, it's not how it works. Number 3, does it produce a repeatable outcome, not just one-time reaction? Yes, you got the laugh. Yes, you got the applause. Yes, you got the, oh my God, that was so funny. The funniest thing I heard all day. You made my day. You got all of that. But when the day ended, and it's going to end, when the door shut, because they're going to leave, when the phone call ends, because they're hanging up, what happens next? Right? This is why you have to go beyond looking for a royalty and move into equity. right? You want to own stake in your work, and you want your followers to own stake in your work as well. The last thing is, would a stranger pay for this structure? Not just enjoy the story. Would they pay for this structure? Not just enjoy the story. If your story was just for you to vent or get it off your chest, then simply sit in your car and post a live and talk about it, and then just end it and hope that people enjoyed it and move on to the next thing. But if that's not what you come to this platform to do, then you need to start thinking differently. You need to start elevating your thoughts in your mind. It is time for you to go through. So here's the conclusion in our through line, right? The manuscript, we're moving from manuscript to market. We're not just writing books to put on a bookshelf. We're not just writing books to go online so they can sell hundreds of thousands of copies to people that you never met and you never know, that you won't have access to their email, you won't have access to their shipping details, you won't have access to anything because you don't own the distribution of it. By the time you're paid about 85% of the sale, because the retailer who sold the book, they closed more than 50% of the sale. The distributor who made the book, they got their cut. And then the publisher of record got their cut. So even when you sign a self-publishing deal and it says you get 100% royalties, you're getting 100% of what's left. I want to show you how to walk away with 85% of the sale right now today while you are present and while you are hearing me, and also capture the information from the end user who is bought into what you were selling. Owning the platform means that when someone buys your work, you get a record of it. You don't get to call Amazon. You don't get to call all these books and say, well, I saw that I had 50 sales last week. Well, how many people, who are the people? They're not going to tell you that because that's proprietary information in their inventory. It's time to transfer that to yours. It's time for you to own your own platform. You thought it was hard, but I promise you it's not. Listen, it is so important. I was just online the other day and I got so frustrated because there's so many, the industry is saturated, or not industry, but social media is saturated with offers. And it's like, we'll do this for your business, we'll do this and blah, 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 or you don't pay us, or we'll do this. They're not telling you that you're going to still pay up front. Either you pay them up front or you invest in $5,000 worth of marketing, paid marketing, at things that you can do yourself, right? So if I can pay $2,500 for some ads to run on Facebook, why would I need you? So you're telling me that if you do these ads, this is what I'll do for you. And then on the back end, you're going to pay me $1,500 a month to run your sales. Well, what sales? The people that I generated from the ads I paid for. See how deceptive that is, right? When you say, oh, we'll do this for you, but this is what you need to have already set up in your business. Well, if I had that already set up, I wouldn't have called you. Right. And so when you're looking at all these get rich quick schemes, they're just in reverse. They're just on social media now. It's the same thing. It's the same market. It's still saturated. They're still stealing from you. They're still deceiving you. You're still paying for people for things that you're not going to get. And so that's why I offered the Book Banker opportunity. This is why opening a Book Banker account is going to benefit you. I've created 8 deposits resources absolutely at no cost to you. You do not have to buy into what I'm selling. I want to gift you the value. I want to lay it in your hands. I want you to open your Book Banker account and walk away feeling empowered. This podcast doesn't cost you anything more than to pay attention, right? And so once you understand who you are, the structure of what you're building, then we can do business together. I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm here to give something to you. So lower the barrier when you're writing. Lower the barrier when you're doing workshops. Make sure that people understand the transformation and what you're offering is not just going to be a transaction, right? It doesn't benefit them for you to increase your sales. It doesn't benefit you to have people who don't understand what it is you're talking about, but you exchange their money. So it is important that you lead with value. Moving from the manuscript to the market is very important. Appraisal writing moves to word capital, moves to IPA, which is intellectual property as an asset, and moves to a funded outcome. Increase your perceived value, and the funders are lined up to come and invest in your work. Whether that's a business proposal that moves the needle, whether that's a book sale that converts into a workshop invitation, whether that's a speaking engagement that evolves into a consulting service, whatever it is, whatever the platform and wherever you are, it's time to elevate. Applause fades, but appraisals compound. It is time to build compounding interest on your word capital. Write to birth, not just to perform. It is very important that every word you place is either spent on a room or invested in a market. In the next episode, we're going to move from building. We talked about elevations and how to build an asset. Today, we talked about how to price that asset. And next week, we're going to move into the mantle space where we're talking about money in the margins, how to write high impact proposals that scale. See you next week. Look forward to it. Make sure you subscribe, like this post, and be sure to subscribe and follow me at Aaron the Publisher today at aaronthepublisher.com. Take the quick quiz. Business is credit, and make sure that you take the quick assessment, and let's see how we can partner and connect together. Until the next time, until next week, when we begin to move money in the margins, I want you to enjoy your week, play this over multiple times, and make sure it gets into your spirit and you are ready to build your auditing program and go from a round of applause to a round table of investors. Let's get into it.